Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva. O all-pervading personality of Godhead. O all-pervading personality of Godhead. Offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth. And the primeval cause of all causes. And the primeval cause of all causes. Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him. And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart. The original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations. Of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Of water seen on fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes. Only because of him do the material universes. Temporarily manifested by reactions of three modes of nature. Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature. Appear factual, although they are unreal. Appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna. Who is eternally existent in transcendental abode. Eternally existent in transcendental abode. Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. Which is forever free from the illusory representations. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma projita kaitavotra. Dharma projita kaitavotra. Paramo nirmatsranam sutam. Paramo nirmatsranam. Vedyam vastavam atra vastu. Vedyam vastavam atra vastu. Shivadam tapatrayon mulan. Shivadam tapatrayon mulan. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani. Kim va parir Ishvaraha. Sadyo hridi avarudyate tra. Sadyo hridi avarudyate tra. Krite bihi sususubhistakshana. Krite bihi sususubhistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest which truth. Is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity. Is sufficient in itself for God realization. It's sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? What is the need of the other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam. By this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. The Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. Sukhamukad amrita dravya sangitam. Sukhamukad amrita dravya sangitam. Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam. Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam. Muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavuka. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. The mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures. The mature fruit, the desire to Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, its nectarian juice was already relishable for including all, liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Iryantak Stohi Badrani Vidunati Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta prayesu bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo bhava Kamalobadayaschaye Cheta Itaranavidam Stitvam Sattve Prasidati. By development of devotional service, by development of devotional service, by development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance. And thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyante Sarva Samsaya Shiyante Chasya Karmani Justa Evatmani Swade. Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of God. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it.
The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it.
So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
The spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
Chanting the holy name, dancing in singing and playing musical instruments.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
Because relishing the mellows of pure devotion.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes the hair stands on
He
end.
feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves.
And tears flow from his eyes.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of
The
such
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna.
spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship, Shri Radha and Krishna.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages disciples in such worship.
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments.
clean their temple,
Clean the temple.
and perform other similar worship of the Lord.
And perform other similar worship to the
I
Lord.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
The spiritual master is offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, which is ordinary, which is leaf, drip, drunk, and sight.
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad
When the
Prasadam,
spiritual master sees that the devotee is satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad,
he is satisfied.
he is satisfied.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava,
The spiritual master is always get to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava.
and their qualities, names, and forms.
And they call his names
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish this at every moment.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I offer
master.
my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan.
The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a
I offer
spiritual
my
master.
most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant of the Lord.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord of such spiritual master who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Therefore, I should always always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
Srimad Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha.
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha.
Laksha Vritesa Surabhira Vipagyantam. Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Venun Kwanantam Aravinda Delayataksham. Varhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamaya Vamsi. Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam. Shyamam Tibangalalitani Yata Prakasam. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti. Vasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chayam Chiram Jaganti. Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Pantast Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo. Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam. Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichuntya Tattve. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ekopya Sura Chaitam Jagananda Kotim. Yas Chaktirasti Jagananda Chayaya Danta. Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyomana Jasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktar Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patitbhavibhtavis. Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tekalabhihi. Goloka Eva Nivsata Kilatma Bhuto. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Santak Sadaiva Hidayesu Vilokayanti. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan. Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesh Sukhintu. Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramaha Pumamyo. Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti. Kotisvasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Benam. Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Maya hi yasya jagananda satani sute. Trigun yatad vishay veda vitayamana. Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu. Ya Pranyanam Pratifalam Smaratam Bhupetya. Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Golokanamni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya. Devi Maheswari Dhamasatesya. Devi Mahesa Haridama Sutesu Tesu Te Prabhavani Jayash Vitaschayena Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shishtistati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichchanu Rupam Apiyasya Chachesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetoho Yasambhutam Apitata Samapaiti Karya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dipachadeva Hita Santaram Abhyupetya Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagananda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Saktim Avalambya Paramsvamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagadandanataha Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kala Visheshu Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Swayam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadradatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palavigam Vinidaya Kumbha Vandve Pranama Samaye Saganadi Rajaha Samaye Sabrati Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahi Gaganamambu Maruti Sascha Kalastatatma Manasitti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Srutayastapamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagava Tayascha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswakarma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdhati Kinchit Bhakti Karmani Nirdhati Kintu Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhava Bhai Sanchintyatasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kalpataravo Druma Bunish Chintamani Ganama Yitoyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Api Vamsi Priyasaki Chidanandam Jyotiparam Apitad Asvadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shravati Shirabi Vyascha Sumahan Inime Sardakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatra Pisamaya Praje Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokamitiyam Vitantaste Santakshiti Virala Katipaye Ishopanishad Ki Jai Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Ishvaishamidam Sarvam Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagatena Taktena Bunjitaha Magritaha Kasisviddanam Karmani Kurvani Karmani Jiva Chekchatam Sabaha Ivam Tvayi Nanyatetusti Nakarma Lipyate Nare Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pratyabhikichanti Yekichat Mahano Janaha Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pratyabhikichanti Yekichat Mahano Janaha Anijadika Manaso Javio Nena Deva Mapavam Pavam Asata Davato Nyana Teti Stat Tasminapomata Visvadadati Anijadika Manaso Javio Nena Deva Apurvam Purvam Asa Tat Darvazonyam Atiti Stat Tasminapomati Swadadati Tadejati Tanejati Tadure Tadvantike Tadantarasya Sarvasya Tadu Sarvasya Salbayataha Tadejati Tanejati Tadvantike Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani Vanupasati Sarvabhutesu Chatmanam Tato Navichgupsate Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani Vanupasati Sarvabhutesu Chatmanam Tato Navichgupsate Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmeva Budvijanataha Tatra Ko Mahakaha Soka Ekatvam Anapasyataha Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmaviva Budvijanataha Tatra Ko Mahakaha Soka Saprega Chukamakaya Nam Avtsnaviram Sudam Apapavidam Kavir Manisi Paribu Swayampu Yatatat Yutorutan Vyadatas Jasvatipyaha Samabyaha Saprega Chukamakaya Nam Avtsnaviram Sudam Apapavidam Kavir Manisi Paribu Swayampu Yatatat Yutorutan Vyadatas Jasvatipyaha Samab Andam Tamahapravisanti Yevidyam Upasyate Tato Bhuya Vatamo Yayu Vidyayam Rataha Tato Bhuya Vatamo Yayu Yevidyam Upasate Tato Bhuya Ivate Tamo Yau Vidyayam Rataha Anyadeva Vidyaya Anyada Hura Vidyaya Iti Susrumadinanam Yenastad Vichachakshire Anyadeva Vidyam Chayasastad Vidyam Chayasastad Vidyam Sahav Vidyaya Miritum Tirtva Vidyayam Ritamasnute Vidyam Cha Yas Darvido Bhayam Saha Avidyam Martyu Tirtva Vidyam Mritam Asnute Andam Tamaha Pravisanti Ye Sambhutim Upasyate Tato Bhuya Vitetamo Yayu Vidyayam Yayu Sambhutam Rataha Andam Tamaha Pravisanti Ye Sambhutim Upasyate Tato Bhuya Ivate Tamo Yayu Sambhutya Anyadevhur sambhavat anyadahur sambhavat iti susumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire.
Anyadevhur sambhavat anyadahur sambhavat iti susumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire.
Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedabhayam saha vinasena militum tidva sambhutam ritamasnute. Hiranmayana patrena satyasyapitam mukam tatvam pusamapavrinus satyadharmaya dristaye.
Hiranmayana patrena satyayapitam mukam tatvam pusamam apavishnu satyam dharmaya dristaye.
Kusanekasya yamasriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samahatejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tate pusyami yosavasu purushaha sohamasmi.
Kusanekasya yamasriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samahatejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tate pusyami yosavasu purushaha.
Vayuranilam amritamati dambasmantam sarinam om kratu smara kritam smara kratu smara kritam smara.
Vayuranilam amritam aridam vashmataram shariram om kratu smara kritam smara kratu smara.
Om Agninaya Supataraya Sman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Man Yodachmachuramino Buyistam Tenama Utim Vidima Om Tatsat.
Om Agninaya Supataraya Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vijan Yudya Asma Yujuna Ino Buyistam Tenama Utim Vidima.
Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 27 again. The last time we go over this. And I'll just go directly to the translation. There is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana when he was just on the lap of his mother, to overturn a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old, to uproot a pair of Arjuna trees so high that they touched the sky when he was only crawling? All these activities are impossible for anyone other than the Lord himself. Jai. Okay, so this is an explanation of special qualities and pastimes or feats performed by Krishna that cannot be emulated by anyone else. And there's a letter written to Srimad Maharaj. I'm going to go over this letter because it has some very nice points. And it's just 3rd November 1974, in which Prabhupada writes, regarding those professors who say that Shiva is the Supreme, in the Rig Veda is stated, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The lotus feet of Lord Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. There, Vishnu is accepted as the supreme. So there are, okay, so this is from the Rig Veda. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sadapasyanti Surayo Divivachaksara Tam Tat Viprasna Vipanyavo. Basically, it's saying that the demigods are all seeking the lotus, to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Let's take a look at the 17th chapter. Let's see what it says here. It also says, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam, Rig Veda 1.22.20. The lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. The performance of everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality Godhead assures the perfection of all activity. So, this is an alternate translation of that verse. And therefore, the idea that Shiva is the Supreme Personality Godhead, not only it's wrong, but it's misleading, and it's based on envy of Krishna, those type of statements. However, there are people who worship Shiva as the Supreme Personality Godhead,
And in one sense, he is seemingly supreme in the material world. He is his Shivalinga is the material medium through which Krishna sends living entities into the material world. And from his linga, they go into the yoni of Durga, and then they're manifested in the material world. So, he's involved in the process of creation. Just like Brahma is also involved in the process of creation, but they're both secondary creators. The primary creator is Krishna. But this remains a mystery for people who still have even the slightest desire for sense gratification. They can't understand this. For them, Krishna is a mystery. They can identify with Shiva. He's got a phallus. He's impregnating the womb of Durga with the phallus. This is all understandable stuff because that's what they do also, right? We living entities imitate that. But the idea that, just by looking, souls are put into the material world, that's not comprehensible for the ordinary people. It's beyond their comprehension. And therefore, it's very difficult for people who have the slightest desire for sense gratification in the material world to understand anything about Krishna. So Prabhupada makes the point. The lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. There Vishnu is accepted as the supreme. So there are 18 Puranas. 6 of them are for persons in the mode of ignorance, some for those in the mode of passion, and the topmost are for those in goodness. So Ishopanishad is one of those that is in mode of goodness. It's the number one Purana as far as clearly delineating the supremacy of Lord Krishna. Although it doesn't necessarily mention his name, but it does reveal transcendental knowledge about who Krishna is. So 6 of the Puranas are for people in the mode of ignorance, 6 for the people in the mode of passion, and 6 for the people in the mode of goodness, or the Sattvic Puranas. If one intelligently reads the Puranas and Vedas, then he can understand that Vishnu is the supreme person. Okay, so you have to intelligently read. What does that mean exactly? That means that you're guided by a pure devotee somewhere along the line. Otherwise, you'll never understand. But for those on the stage of ignorance and passion, sometimes such statements are there. Yeah, that Shiva is God, or Durga is God. Because they're in different stages of ignorance and passion. So it depends on the quality of the nature of the person that one accepts Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu as the supreme. But one who studies scrutinizingly all the Vedic literature and who accepts the statements of the Acharyas who guide the destiny of Vedic culture of India, who all accept Vishnu as the supreme person, then he will also have the same conclusion. So the ability to understand things depends on the influence of the modes of material nature on us. And we only begin to understand about Krishna in the mode of goodness. We have to be elevated to the mode of transcendental goodness to actually understand. We only begin to understand a few things about him in the mode of goodness. And now Prabhupada says, so far we are concerned in the Krishna consciousness movement, we are preaching the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is the supreme person even before all demigods, including Lord Vishnu, even. And of course, Lord Shiva. Our fundamental principle is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Those persons who cannot understand this on account of particular modes of nature, such persons require further education, and until such time is fulfilled, we are helpless, which means we can't really do anything with people like that because they're lacking so much knowledge due to their material attachments. So he's saying we are helpless with such people. To an animal in a mode of ignorance, how can we preach? Then we are helpless. So he's saying we're actually helpless when we come in touch with people who are living on the level of animals, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, being attached to these things as if this is real life. So people are talking about what they ate, what vacation they're going to take, and how good their sleep is, and how good their sex is, and this and that. This is what they're talking about all the time, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And that's animal life. It's not spiritual life. It's animal life. So what can you do with people who are two-legged animals? There's not much you can do. You just give them prasadam, because just like people come and feed the cows every day. Well, that's the way you establish a relationship with the cow. You feed the cow, you brush the cow, you clean out the stool of the cow, and you chant for the cow, and the cow becomes your friend. Cow's an animal, right? But it's a special animal, but it's still an animal. So they do the same thing with the dog. They do the same, or they try and do the same thing with the cat. The cats are really very envious and puffed up, but dogs, they can be very friendly. They can respond to this constantly feeding. If you stop feeding the dog, you know what he does? He runs away. So same with the animals. If you don't, even the cow, you don't feed the cow, and if there's nothing for them to eat and there's no water, they're going to run away. Also, they're going to break the fence and run away. So then it says, I have read your letter to the professor, and it is a good challenge. You have written nicely. You have correctly cited the Vedas, wherein it said, Eko Narayana Asin Na Brahma Na Isano. In the beginning, there was no Brahma, no Shiva, only Krishna. Yes. So that's quoted in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavamatak sarvam pravartate. So in there, Prabhupada quotes this verse. Eko vai Narayana asin na brahmana isano napo nagni samo nime dvav apritivi na nakshatrani nasurya. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no fire, no moon, no stars in the sky, no sun. So here, in this purport, 10.8, Prabhupada quotes many verses that establish that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It says either Krishna or Narayana. Now, why does it say either Krishna or Narayana? Well, first of all, Narayana and Krishna are not different. Narayana is the expansion of Krishna, a plenary expansion. He has the same powers as Krishna. And then, but let's say the actual reality of it all is like this, that everything begins from, Prabhupada explains this in a letter to Karandar on 19th of July, 1973. He says, first of all, he says that now we shall put this challenge against this wrong theory that life comes from matter. Undoubtedly, matter has come from life, and we can present so many practical proofs of this. So let's Swarup Damodar and Ramananda think in their own chemical language how to push this fact to the scientists or to the scientific world. If by Krishna's grace they even partially admit it, it would be a great triumph. My point is, even if they partially accept, then they have to find out what is the original life. In the Shastras, we have information that the original life in the universe is Brahma. And Brahma is also a product of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is a product of Karana Dakshaya Vishnu. And in this way, we will ultimately reach Krishna. So Karana Dakshaya Vishnu is expanded from the second Chaturvyuha, which is expanded from Narayana. And Narayana is expanded from the first Chaturvyuha. And the first Chaturvyuha is expanded by Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram is the plenary expansion of Krishna. So eventually you come back to Krishna. You see, this is the sequence. And Prabhupada says, we have to give a fight to the wrong conception of the unauthorized scientists. So what is this fight? So let's look up in the internet. I should have brought my phone. Okay. Look up in the internet. Does the soul come from matter? Or no, does life come from matter? Does life come from matter? Does life come from matter? What's it say? Okay, read it in a mic. Does life come from matter? Okay.
There is one article about how can life emerge from non-living.
Go and speak in the microphone. Just take the microphone in here. Does life come from matter?
So there's one article about how can life emerge from non-living matter.
Yes.
So this is about scientists. How can life emerge from non-living matter? UNC scientists find new evidence.
Yes, that's the article I was
Oh, you're looking
Yeah.
for it. Okay. So
They find new evidence. Go ahead.
researchers say new findings could help answer questions about life's chemical.
Could help.
Yes.
Yeah.
About life's chemical origins. And then a recipe for the perfect life-yielding primordial soup has
Yes, perfect life-yielding primordial soup. You know, it's like Campbell's soup or something. Campbell's soup in a can.
has eluded science for decades.
You see? They haven't been able to figure it out how it happened, right? Go ahead.
Mhm. But a team of biochemists say they now have a key ingredient.
Only an ingredient. It doesn't say they did it, right?
And then they have some names: Charles Carter, Richard Wolfenden, both of the University of North Carolina, have uncovered new evidence of abiogenesis.
Abiogenesis means life comes from matter, not from life.
Hmm.
Abio, so bio is life, right? So
Mm,
abio means no life. So abiogenesis, the genesis is from no life
No,
or from matter.
the process by which life arises from the non-living chemical matter.
Yes.
Their study, published Thursday in the Journal of Biological Chemistry, suggests that a single
Suggests, right?
Yes.
Suggests. It doesn't say they've got it now. They've got the proof now. No. They can do it. They haven't done anything. Go ahead.
that a single ancient gene may have used each of its opposite DNA strands to code for different chemical catalysts.
Okay, it suggests that an ancient
Gene.
DNA strand, right,
Mhm.
did something miraculous, right? Okay, go ahead.
And those separate catalysts would have both activated amino acids.
Would have. See, all hypothetical words, right? Would have.
Yeah, just a theory. Which then formed proteins.
Now we got to life. Okay.
So those separate catalysts would have then activated amino acids, would then formed proteins essential to the production of living cells.
See, you're still not in life. You're at a building block of life called a protein or amino acid. Right? See, it's still not life.
So the next statement is interesting. Where does life come from? Despite years of research, scientists still rack their brains over this most existential question.
Most what?
Existential question.
Yeah, yes. Existential means
The fundamental.
the idea of life. Life itself.
If the universe did begin with a rapid expansion per the Big Bang theory, then life as we know it sprung from non-living matter. How
does that follow? If you have a big explosion and life comes from what? From matter?
Yeah,
Non-living matter.
That itself refutes the Big Bang theory.
Yeah.
They say if it is Big Bang, then life would have come from non-living matter.
Yeah.
But life does not come from non-living
It's nonsense that they're just making assumptions.
how this process known as abiogenesis could have occurred is the source of much scientific debate.
That means they don't know yet. Yeah. And they can't produce it.
In the early 20th century, the primordial soup model of abiogenesis started to gain traction. It proposes that in Earth's prebiotic history, simple
Before
organic
life. This whole thing is nonsense, you say. Go ahead.
simple organic matter was exposed to energy in the form of volcanoes and electrical storms. That energy would have catalyzed chemical reactions that in the span of few 100 million years could have produced self-replicating
Could have. See, all hypothetical words.
self-replicating molecules. In 1952, Stanley Miller, Harold Urey tested that hypothesis. They combined water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen in sealed vials in attempt to replicate Earth's original atmosphere.
There's no guarantee that that was the Earth's original atmosphere.
They bombarded the vials with heat and continuous electrode sparks to simulate volcanic activity and lightning. Eventually, the reaction produced a number of amino acids, the building blocks of protein, and by extension, life itself.
This is the only thing they have. They make some proteins, okay. That doesn't mean it's life. It's a building block of so-called life, but no. Go ahead.
Today, Miller-Urey experiment is contested for a number of reasons,
Even that is contested, right?
including the possibility that Earth's original atmosphere may have had a different composition.
Yeah. You don't know.
Still, the production of organic compounds from inorganic precursors laid a strong foundation for the primordial soup hypothesis.
Hypothesis, a guess.
Yes.
This
And
is all they have. They don't have anything else. They have that one little experiment, and they have this concept of a primordial soup that was zapped by some energies, and all of a sudden, a miraculous thing happened. Matter turns into a living being. It's a bunch of nonsense. This is what Prabhupada says in this letter. He says that he says in this letter to Karandar, he says that now we shall put this challenge against this wrong theory that life comes from matter. You see how Prabhupada put his finger right on the weakest point of modern science. And you can see, just reading this, you can see they don't know how it actually happened, how matter turns into, but yet they're preaching it. They're saying this is a fact. You see, the whole thing is a hoax. It's not scientific. Science is experiment and the demonstration of your theory, through experiment. The only experiment they have, they might be able to make a few amino acids, but that doesn't make a living being. If they were so close to making a living being, they would have done it, but they can't go beyond that point. Undoubtedly, matter has come from life, and we can present so many practical proofs of this. So this is back in 1973, Prabhupada writes this letter. So he says, now he gets to the real point. He says, the cosmic manifestation, in the beginning there was no Brahma, no Shiva, no Krishna. Only Krishna. The cosmic manifestation is from Mahatattva, and before the Mahatattva there's Narayana. Sankaracharya is a Lord Shiva worshipper and an incarnation of Lord Shiva. And he admits that Narayana is the master, and Narayana is the supreme. Narayana Paro Vyaktat. This is the best authority. What more evidence you want? Lord Shiva himself says that Narayana is transcendental to the material world. This is in his Shankha Bhashya on Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Shiva Sankaracharya wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. He didn't touch the Srimad Bhagvatam because that's all about Krishna. But he did make a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and in there he says that Narayana is transcendental to the material nature. This is not even the statement of the Puranas, but of Sankaracharya's own writings. How can you deny if the incarnation of Lord Shiva says that Krishna is supreme? In the Puranas, it is stated that another demigod is supreme, just to convince the devotee of that demigod. Just like a student in primary school, he thinks the primary education is everything and has no idea of higher education. This is to convince the devotees of Lord Shiva, but from the Gita we understand that it is from Krishna that he gives the faith by which one can worship the demigods. So we discussed this yesterday. We read the verses where Krishna says he makes the faith of the demigod worshipper very strong. Krishna says, Aham Adihi Devanam. This is Bhagavad Gita. It's this 10th chapter, 2nd verse. Let me take a look at that. So now we can learn Bhagavad Gita by reading this. Aham Adiri Devanam, 10th chapter, 2nd verse. It says, neither the host of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. So he says, Krishna says, Aham Adihi Devanam. Is Krishna speaking a lie when he says he's the origin of the demigods and the sages? And then he says, Matak Paratanam Nanyat. That's 7th chapter, 7th verse, in which he says that he is the origin of everything material. Let's see where that is. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So, nobody is greater than me, he says. Shiva is not greater than him. Brahma is not greater than nobody. He says, why should we reject Krishna's statement? Our mission is to put Krishna as first, and they may take it or not. We do not interfere with their choice, but we do it as our duty. I hope this meets you in good health. Okay, so this is a very important point. So here Prabhupada gives the evidence. There's so much evidence that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the top evidence is Sankaracharya himself. He's He's the leader of the Mayavadis. And he admits that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he also says, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Madhamate. So there's so much proof, but people who are less intelligent and are still attached to the material world cannot appreciate this. Okay, so then, also, if we look at the second chapter, second canto, 6th chapter, 39th verse. That's where we're reading from now. Second chapter, 6th chapter, second canto, 6th chapter, 39th verse. And it says there, let us offer a respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is. That's the point. He can hardly be fully known as he is. And this is also confirmed in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Naham prakasa sarvasya yogamaya samanvritaha mudoyam nabijananti lokamam ajam avyayam. So, in that verse, Krishna says that he reserves the right not to be revealed. He says, I am never manifested foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, meaning the Brahmajyoti, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. And then after that it says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavishyamicha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. He says, O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. So, Krishna reserves the right not to reveal himself to the non-devotees. Therefore, Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaya jatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vetitattvataha. Very few people can understand Krishna. Very, very few. Out of thousands that try for perfection, one may succeed. And out of thousands and millions who achieve perfection, only one can know Krishna in truth. So, this just points that are fundamental. Therefore, when we're preaching to people, we should not be in any way intimidated by neither by the scientists who say that life comes from matter, nor by the Mayavadis that say that Krishna is not the supreme; it's the Brahmajyoti, or the demigod worshippers who say Shiva is the supreme, or Durga is the supreme, or my uncle is the Supreme Personality of God. It's all a bunch of nonsense. We put Krishna first. That's what Prabhupada says. Okay. So the whole point of Bhagavatam is to understand Krishna. Now, there are many other references that can be made. I will make an outline of all these references. I already have it noted here in my notes. And it's very, very useful to go over all these references if you really want to learn how unique Krishna is. So I'll do that, and I'll give you an outline. Because the whole point is, how can we convince people that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Well, the real way to convince them is not by all these quotes, because it's impossible for them to understand. The real way to convince them is to bring them up to the mode of goodness. And how do we do that? By giving them first-class prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna. Then they'll come up to the mode of goodness. Then they begin to understand. It's only the beginning. Then they'll hopefully they develop a taste for regular hearing and chanting. That's when they'll begin to understand. Say, this is our technique. So bringing people up to the mode of goodness, that's why Prabhupada was saying before he left his body, he said, we've only done 50%. Now the other 50% is Varnashram Dharma. Because it's a workable means to bring people up gradually to the mode of goodness, where they can begin to understand Krishna consciousness. So it's the Vedic way of organizing society in which everyone, even the lowest class people, can make spiritual progress and come up gradually to the mode of goodness. Okay, so this is our process. And we should be aware of it and not think that, by giving all these quotes to someone, they'll become convinced. They can't even understand one iota, one little bit, right, in the mode of ignorance. So we have to bring them through a gradual process of prasadam and chanting and dancing and festivals and all that to a higher level where they're not so influenced by the modes of material nature. And then they begin to understand. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes.
Maharaj, I have experienced the same thing that you just explained.
Okay, say the mic.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have also personally experienced exactly the same thing that you have just explained, bringing people to mode of goodness and then they will begin to understand.
Yeah.
So in the food truck, some people, like a lot of people, they are coming from couple years very regularly. And as you have explained the preaching technique, I started giving them 1 or 2 person, and those are like little bit interested in the small book Prabhupada just to read. But for a year or so, there was no change. But last few months back, one person started reading Prabhupada book, and I asked him, "What did you learn?" So one day he said, "My neighbor's wife or the all other ladies, they are all my mother. That's what I learned from this book." So I was shocked when he said this. Then I was not able to understand how he learned this suddenly. This is a very big thing to learn for a person who has no idea about Krishna consciousness. So now I can correlate that because they came up to the mode of goodness because of eating prasadam for like couple years.
Yeah.
Now, because when he spoke this, it stuck with me. Like it's a few months back he's told me, but still I remember very fresh.
He understands that his neighbor's wife and others' wives, they're all his mother. Yeah, instead of they're all the object of his sex desire. Right? That's a big thing.
And
It's
I
a
was
big step forward.
It was a good surprise, but it is like how the prasadam is bringing them slowly to their mode of goodness, and they started understanding.
And they start to read a little bit.
Yes, read.
And they pick up something. Good.
Thank you.
We have to do a lot more prasadam.
I think with the second truck it will be more prasadam.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Haribol. If they start chanting, that's when the real progress. I mean, taking prasadam is excellent. It sort of breaks through all the layers of ignorance. But when they start chanting, that's when it really makes progress. Because then, see, if you regularly hear Srimad Bhagvatam, it will also eliminate all your previous karma. But if you chant, it goes very fast. So take prasadam, chant, dance. The process is very fast.
So when you take prasadam, does the Brahma Jigyasa arise? Because isn't Brahma Jigyasa the root of getting into the spiritual journey?
When you take prasadam, it's the mercy of Krishna, right? So what will happen is, it's just like, if you always leave food out in your backyard, it attracts animals. Then eventually, they can see that who is putting the food out, because it's going on a daily basis. Then they develop an affinity for you, the person who's putting the food. They can correlate, you know. And then they might even let you pet them, right? They won't run away. So the prasadam is like that. It brings the animal closer to associating with the devotees. And then things start to happen in that closer association. You see? They might even say Hare Krishna. They start saying Hare Krishna. Instead of saying hello, they say, "Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How you guys doing? Hare Krishna," you know. Because you keep saying to them, Hare Krishna. You say. So now they're saying the holy name, and they're coming regularly for prasadam. You see. And then you might, at one point, gift them a small book to read. And they might not read it for a year or two, and then one day they say, I got this book, maybe I should take a look at it. And they take a look at it, and then they get something out of it, right? So this is the gradual, very gradual process. Ramajigyasa, inquiring about the absolute truth, about Brahma, it's not in their pay scale, as they say, right? But it can be through prasadam, through positive association with devotees, and regulated, like, you know, we're regulating them. Every 6 o'clock or 6:30, we're there till 8:30. So they get regulated to associate with devotees. And in the beginning, they don't want the association; they just want the food. But now, the food is the medium of connection. See? So this is our process.
A lot of people, the regular people, they greet with Hare Krishna. Yeah. They stop saying hello and those things.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, they start saying Hare Krishna.
The majority of people, those are regular, they are greeting with Hare Krishna.
They're what?
They're greeting with
Greeting with Hare Krishna, yeah. See, so prasadam, then Hare Krishna, and then books, and then close association, and coming to classes, you know, and then eventually becoming devotees. Hari Bol. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma
Kevala Bhakati Satma
Savadana Mate Janarabasa Debai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jahan Haite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittite Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittite Koriya
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Aruna Kori Ho Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama gati.
Guru charane rati aise uttama gati.
Ye prasade pure sarva asa.
Ye prasade pure sarva asa.
Chakchudan dila jay janme janme Prabhu se.
Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se.
Chakshudan dila jay janme janme Prabhu se.
Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se.
Divya gyan hriday prakashito.
Divye gyan hriday prakashito.
Shri Guru prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasajate.
Bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasajate.
Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasajate.
Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasajate.
Vede gay janara charito.
Vede gay jahara charito.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu.
Guru karuna sindhu adhama janara bandhu.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu.
Guru karuna sindhu adhama janara bandhu.
Lokanath Lokera Jivana.
Lokanath lokera jivana.
Haha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Padachaya.
Prabhu koro daya deho more pada chaya.
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Padachaya.
Prabhu koro daya deho more pada chaya.
Meya Sukhi Bhuvana.
Ebe josh ghuso tribhuvana.
Meya Sukhi Bhuvana.
Ebe josh ghuso tribhuvana.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane.
Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitya Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Nitya Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gora Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajika Chastatara Satara Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Kahoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the symbol. All glories to the symbol. All glories to the symbol device. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Patita Bhavan, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Varamachari Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatari Srila Prabhupada. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor. By his grace, one can cross the ocean with suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish that my conscience is purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth therefore. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord Master. Oh, Master.
Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. You take the shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada.